2026 regular meeting of the Stoughton Committee. This meeting is being recorded by SMAC for future broadcasting. Please rise if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I believe Ms. Sears is providing the flag. There we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for the flag. If you are here to make public comment, add your name and address to the chat if you plan on making a statement. Meanwhile, before we begin, I'd like to read the Stoughton School Committee operating norms. Agree to disagree, assume positive intent, be outcome driven, be prepared, be respectful, celebrate our wins, the district and each other, challenge the issue, not the person, have fun, manage time wisely, put students first, resolve the issues during the meeting, speak from one's own perspective, and speak with one voice. Just a reminder to the committee to adhere to Robert's Rules of Order. No crosstalk. All comments go through the chair. Public comment. Charlene, do we have anyone who has put their name in the chat for public comment?
No, we do not.
Okay. All right, going to the next agenda item then, discussion of the FY27 Stoughton School Committee priorities. At our last meeting, I requested committee members to reflect and propose a priority for the school committee to focus on in FY27. As a reminder, our policies say that we will regularly evaluate our own effectiveness by setting goals for the operations, relationships, and governance responsibilities, and then we would assess progress toward those goals. This ongoing self-evaluation process is intended to promote continuous improvement, accountability, and strong leadership on behalf of students in the community. According to the policy, the goals should be related to communication with the public, school committee superintendent relationships, school committee member development and performance, policy development, educational leadership, fiscal management, school committee meetings, performance of subcommittees of the school committee, and interagency and governmental relationships. On the memo provided in your meeting packet, you will see 3 potential priorities that were submitted for consideration. I recommend that we discuss these and then select one as our focus for fiscal year 27. When selecting one, we should also determine what success would look like over the course of the year. I will now open the discussion. Should I read into the record what they are?
Yes.
All right, I see a nod. Excellent. Okay, so the first one was establish a multi-year financial forecasting process that evaluates the district's financial sustainability over the next 3 to 5 years, identifies potential structural deficits early, and supports proactive planning for rising costs, enrollment changes, staffing obligations, special education needs, transportation expenses, and capital investments. Second submitted priority was have more students take AP classes. And the third one submitted was to understand all sources of money and where it's spent so we could decide what to keep and what to grow, focusing on important areas like special education, transportation, and building projects to better support our students. Any discussion around support for any of the 3 priorities listed? Yes, Ms. Powers?
Why do we only have to choose one? Why can't we choose 3?
We could choose more than one. I thought it was best to go slow because in my memory, the school committee has never created a priority and evaluated itself against it. So I thought rather than trying to take on too much, that would make sense for us to have a more heightened focus. But it's up to the committee. If the committee determines that you'd rather have 2, then we can go with 2.
Or 3.
Other questions?
They're all very good.
All right, Mr. Stefano, Jillian.
So just based off of like the two of the three that are in here, it's very budget focused, and I think it's very relevant to the situation we're in and where we expect to be in the next couple of years. That there's going to be a lot of change. Redistricting, new school, it's going to have a lot of financial impact in the districts. So I recommend, like, the first one is perfect. The third one's mine, just because, understanding where the funds come in. So maybe we can combine them in some way because they're both connected in some form.
Thank you. Charlene?
I was gonna say the same thing, that they can be combined in a way, and I do agree with Mrs. Powers to keep all three of them. I think they're all three very important. I think the first and the third one are more important than the AP classes, but I think AP should be included inside of it as well.
All right. Yes, Dr. Baeta?
Well, first of all, congratulations that you're doing this. I would just offer the opportunity that you should have, although this is a priority, you also need a goal, what you want to do for this year, because creating and establishing a multi-year financial plan has always been a goal that we try to do, but it's such a difficult one to do because we count so much on the resources that come from the state. When you're looking at that, what is the goal that you want to establish? So that would be one, and that kind of works in with number 3 as well, the opportunity to see what other resources are available. And then number 2, which I think is a student goal, right? The other 2 are financial goals, if you will. Number 2, it comes clearly as a student goal. I think it's a great goal. I support it. And of course, it'll be up to you folks. But I would say that AP classes and early college should be a focus because for some students, their early college will be more of a focus than AP, although we have a need in both areas. But again, those are just my thoughts out loud. I appreciate that through the chair that you folks are all considering having some goals or priorities and then establishing goals for the year. And it's fundamental to supporting Julie as the incoming superintendent so that she has a focus with you folks on what you're looking for as well. Just a comment.
Ms. Powers?
So I have 2 comments, and I would say that we should probably do 2 goals, one student focused, one financial focus. I'll start with the AP one because that is mine. And I will say that going on the DESE website for 2025, the number of AP test participants, which means test takers, was 194. I want to compare that to Southeastern Regional, which is a vocational school, not a college readiness school per se, more for vocation. They took 264. 264 at the vocational school test takers, 194 for Stoughton. And just so that we have another comparison, Canton had 329 test takers. Easton had 299. Mansfield had 300. Again, Stoughton had 194, not even 200 test takers in 2025. And I also want to say that for the APs, there were 363 AP tests taken. Southeastern beat us by 20 at 383 AP tests taken. That's a vocational school in our district. Canton took 752 tests to our 363. And Easton and Mansfield both did almost 700. So we are very below what our neighboring towns take. There may be all kinds of reasons that people can find for that, but it is important to know this as a school committee that, in my opinion, we are failing our students in encouraging them to aspire, to grow, to push, to be college ready. The second part of the financial thing is, yes, establishing a multi-year financial forecasting process is difficult. And it would have been nice to have been a part of the town's financial process planning. We didn't take part in it. We chose whatever we chose not to, or we didn't get invited, whatever it was. Maybe something a little bit easier to grasp might be to just say, we're going to take a real vote on our bottom line in February. That gives us 3 to 4 weeks after House 1, where we know for certain our financial numbers. So maybe take the preliminary vote like we did in December, but then once we have the numbers in, instead of waiting like we did last meeting until after town meeting, which the vote didn't matter because town meeting made the vote, why don't we take our vote in February? And that way our vote might actually have some merit. And maybe it won't be an emotional turmoil for the town and for the people involved.
Ms. Powers, thank you for that. Sorry, were you done?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I feel to Dr. Baeda's comments that might be more of a goal oriented, and what can we do to make that happen? I think that makes a lot of sense, although the priorities I think are all noteworthy. Jen?
I was going to go along with what Charlene sort of said too. I think that we could combine these together as, financial goals and student goals. And I think 1 and 3 could become one, but I do believe with Ms. Powers that we should do all of them. I think that it would be a good choice to do all of them. And I do like what Dr. Baeta says about adding in early college too, because not all kids want to take AP classes. And actually some colleges aren't even using a lot of, it matters what you major in if they're even taking AP classes anymore. So that's a big issue too. So, because if you major in, like my niece majored in marine biology and she couldn't do AP, they wouldn't take her AP credits, even though she passed the test. So that is the issue too. So I think early college would combined in there also. Yeah.
That has also been my experience. I connected with several people who are in admissions. And if someone, for example, passes and passing the AP, that's a whole other conversation. How many people took the test versus the number who actually received the AP credit. But if they receive credits, say for Physics 1 and bypass that in college, then they go right into Physics 2. And a lot of times that class they're not ready for it. And it puts the incoming student at a disadvantage as well as the students in the class. So that is, if colleges are opting not to accept AP credit, a lot of times that is why. Dr. Baeta?
Yeah, so a couple of clarifying questions that I think or comments that I think are important. Number one, I agree with the comments in general that having a student goal and a financial goal is really important for the committee, because again, it establishes that relationship with the school committee about what you're really looking to see as your priorities. AP has been a consistent challenge around, and one of the reasons why early college is becoming the thing to do is because early college credits go with the student depending what college they're going to. AP is a college decision. For example, UMass Amherst continues to be the flagship of accepting those credits without students having to, quote, take other credits. But if you go to other universities, you're accepted, but you're still having to fulfill those 3 credits somewhere else. So you can take another elective or you can actually do more work. So it doesn't take away from your payment plan like early college potentially has. And then the last thing that's I think relevant is I know for a fact that one of these schools that was just noted pays for the AP tests.
Right.
Versus our kids pay for their own AP tests. Just that's a huge difference. When you have a line item that's $30,000, it's about $30,000 to support Stoughton High School students to take the AP test at no cost to them, while another school system is taking that entire $30,000 and at least the first course is paid for, if not even the second course. I've seen this in my 17 years of school systems doing that. By the way, they also do that for SATs and other situations. And so for some school district, that's one of the reasons why you see the numbers as high. I agree. I wholeheartedly agree that if you have 1,100 students in a high school, that our number should be higher than 194. I absolutely agree with that. I think that's the most relevant point for me, right? That our numbers need to be better. We need to give access, especially in our ELL population and special ed population, who are very low numbers. So having that as a target to Ms. Power's recommendation, I think is touche. I mean, good. I think it's a good goal to have. I think the question would be, how do we get those numbers up in the next year, right? Because kids are already enrolled in their courses. So now what we're thinking about is we're actually thinking about a plan that's actually for the following year, because our kids are already enrolled in their classes for next year. They've already been selected. And so what is that selection process? How do students get into it? Is that something we need to take a look at? And those would be things that Julie and her team could come back to you with as you're scheduling for the following year.
I like that idea. Thank you. Ms. Powers?
So AP courses, what they do two things. For some colleges, including, like Dr. Bayetta said, UMass Amherst, our flagship, and all of the UMass, if you get a 4 or a 5 on the test, then they will allow those credits through. Even some of your Ivy Leagues or some of your higher colleges and universities will do some. There are some, like MIT, for example, Harvard, Yale, Dartmouth, that I personally looked into recently. They don't accept the AP as a class, but they absolutely look at rigor, and AP shows rigor more than any of the others. So if you have a high achieving student that's hoping that maybe they might be able to get into one of these selective schools, they have to take APs. Now, whether or not we want to put some funding towards lower income or other students so that they have more opportunities is something the school committee can absolutely do. That's within our realm of what we can choose to do for students and for our families. We choose where the money goes. So we can choose to make that a priority. This year, maybe not, that we can choose to do that, or that we can try to promote AP classes if they're already done. Some AP courses, maybe they can actually get into. What I can say for absolute certain, and I've vocalized this many times, the language that we use in the homework policy and other places that talks about AP courses makes it sound scary to students and discourages them from taking it because they're afraid they're not going to do well, or they're afraid that it's not going to have value, or they're afraid that it's going to lower their grade point average. And that's what needs to change. What needs to change is the way that we talk about these AP courses. And we should be challenging our students, because our students are not less. Our students are not mediocre. We have extremely smart students in our schools, and they are absolutely capable with proper encouragement and with supports in place to be able to take these courses. And even if they don't get a 4 or a 5, if they get a 2 or 3, it still shows the rigor, and it still shows that they took the course. So even if they get a C in an AP, it still is better than a B in an honors class. So this is absolutely something that I think that we can prioritize. I think that we could set a goal saying we want 100 more test takers or 200 more tests taken within the next year or 2 years or 3 years. And I would also say that taking a vote on our budget in February is also an easy goal to meet for this year.
Thank you. Jen?
I just have, and maybe Julia, Dr. Bayeda can answer this. To take an AP course, you need to have a teacher's recommendation, right? Your kid can't just sign up for an AP class. That's based on teachers, right?
No. So we offer AP classes at Stoughton, and we do expect all our students that are in those AP classes to take the AP exam. But students may, like in some cases, we don't offer a class and they're interested in taking the AP exam. They can sign up for the AP exam without having taken a class from us and without getting sort of our permission. And we do have a number of students that do that every year.
But if I wanted to take AP chemistry, which I did when I was in high school, I had to get permission from the chemistry teacher in 11th grade to take 12th grade AP chemistry. Is that still how it works? You have to have permission from the teacher. You can't just sign up for an AP class.
We do have a teacher recommendation, but if the parent and child would like to elect the course even without the recommendation, we have a process for that as well.
Okay, all right. That was my question. Thank you very much.
Ms. Miller, thank you, Jen. Ms. Miller, I'm curious, with the growing number of students who are getting the seal of biliteracy, is there perhaps an opportunity there to maybe expand AP offerings for multi-language learners?
I mean, there could be. We do offer AP in terms of languages. You know, we have AP Spanish and AP French that we offer each year. I mean, there might be some other opportunities that we haven't explored yet that are other multilingual sort of based classes. We could certainly look at that. We'd have to look at staffing as well and making sure that we have the staff that can teach it and that have the credentials to do so. Because in order to teach the AP class, you do have to have the training behind you to be able to do that. So there are definitely opportunities we can explore and look into. And if that's the direction that we want to move, then that would certainly be require some budgetary support for sure.
Is the have we ever done a crosswalk with the seal biliteracy with the AP exams? I mean, is there a gulf between them, or would it require full class for students to take that AP exam?
Well, I would say that there is some crossover in terms of, like, if you're looking at specifically the students that are taking the seal of biliteracy and the students that take our AP exams, there are definitely some crossover, but you certainly have a lot more students taking the seal of biliteracy that aren't taking AP exams, which is actually an awesome opportunity, right? You're exposing students to more opportunity. They don't have to take a specific course of study to take the seal of biliteracy. They just have to reach a certain proficiency in English for MCAS. So it is more accessible, I think, to students, particularly our multilingual students in general. But to look at our the students are taking seal of biliteracy, looking at them and what their histories are, and perhaps actually soliciting some feedback from them specifically, we might be able to generate some ideas about what kind of courses in the AP realm would be more fitting for them.
Yeah, I was thinking about Jen's comment about, students just being able to opt into an AP exam without necessarily having taken the course. I don't know if there's an opportunity there, because Ms. Powers is right. Our kids are smart and they are definitely achieving in so many different areas, and that is one of them. And is there a way we can take advantage of that so they get credit beyond Stoughton High School for that?
Absolutely.
All right, so based on what I'm hearing that the committee is interested in having two goals, combining 1 and 3 into a financial goal and having one specifically for the students. But it sounds like we might need to finesse the language. Would I have the committee's permission to work with the administration to figure out what that language would be, or do we simply want to identify specific goals for us based on this discussion? What direction would the committee like to take? Jen or Jillian?
I think I agree. We're in agreement to combine 1 and 3 and then also have 2. I think maybe our next step is to put in a vision of what we all think that looks like. And that's something we can put together at our next meeting in August. where we can put together some SMART goals, and where we, how we're going to track it.
I love that suggestion. Julie, any reaction to that?
About tracking the goal?
Well, about having a conversation in August around what that SMART goal would be. If we did that, would that give staff enough time to determine what supports would need to go into place if needed for those goals?
Yeah, if you have a decision in August, that gives us some time. Staff are already going to know, at the end of this year that these are some ideas that we have, and certainly I can already put the bug in Ryan, Mr. Augusta's ear, but they'll know that already. That would give them enough time to start to put some plans in place and to have a budget preparation to the high school principal or other principals within the district, if it applies to them, in time for our process.
Okay. All right. And I'm just reflecting on something that's further on in the agenda. There may be an opportunity, Jen, to your comment about students perhaps not being able to afford. I think that's spot on. I know we struggled when we had 2 APs at one time to pay for that. And of the 3 tests that were passed, only 1 was accepted by the university that they went to. So those comments were taken into, so there may be other opportunities that could help cover the cost if cost is prohibitive. Ms. Powers?
Okay, so for what you just said, Ms. Shannon, Stoughton already has in place systems for low income and needy students to be able to take AP exams at a reduced rate. So that is already in place. And you're right, Stoughton is not an affluent town, and AP exams absolutely add up for sure. Everything adds up. Costs are up everywhere, and everyone in Stoughton is feeling the tightness in the belts. So it's definitely something that I think the school committee can take up and can say, well, let's try to put some funds aside and maybe try to see if we can't distribute some for students that are needy. And we certainly have a list of those. I wanted to say, though, that Ms. Miller, I am more than happy to meet with you, and we can discuss some AP goals and what you think would work. And we can have that ready by the next meeting.
Glad to do that.
Yeah, I know I would love to Dr. Baeta's comment earlier, would love to see early college in there. So it's not just focused on APs, that students who participate or receive early college credit while in high school, I think is also a very admirable goal. So I would like to see something that maybe encompasses both of those. All right, so Ms. Powers, you're going to meet with Ms. Miller. Sorry, go ahead, Ms. Miller.
Sorry, I just want to add to that. Early college is definitely something we can include as well. We are, just to remind the committee, we're scheduled to potentially bring early college on board in the fall of 2027. We received the early college planning grant this year, and we are likely to receive the follow-up grant for next year to continue the planning, and we've partnered with Bridgewater State University to start. So just to remind the committee of where we stand on that.
Yeah, and I'm loving what I'm hearing around this goal about not only just signals of rigor, but also early access to our students to college credit. I think that's a great goal. Ms. Powers?
Can you remind me, is this early college that's coming on board in 27, is that completely paid for by the grant, or is that coming out of the operating budget too? Or is there a startup costs for that?
There's no cost to the district. Thank you for asking the question. There's no cost to the district, and there's no cost to our students. It covers through state funding to Bridgewater State University or the colleges that participate.
Thank you.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is there will be some reflecting. I'll still create a synopsis of this conversation. I'll see what I can do unless, Jillian, I know you're going to be out of commission, but Jen, if you wanted to take the language from 1 and 3, I know you submitted 1. If you wanted to take a stab at language based on what you heard tonight around the financial.
Sure, I
and
heard
Ms.
the
Powers, if
add
you-
February and stuff. You wanted when we vote in December and February. I can do that.
Yep.
Not a problem.
Yep,
That's done.
and figure out what the spirit of 1 and 3 are and combine those into
Sure.
something in the goal. Yeah.
Yep.
And Ms. Powers, you'll be working on fleshing out the second priority, the one for the students, and you'll work with Ms. Miller on that.
So I will, yeah, Ms. Miller, I'll get in contact with you and we can discuss that. When's a good time. And Dr. Sears, if you want to get together or even just have an email back and forth a little bit about that financial part, that's your baby, but I'm willing to, add some
Sure.
input if needed.
No problem. I can show you what I come up with.
Great.
Jillian?
I just want to say a lot of, when it comes to budgeting things that we've been discussing in our budgeting subcommittee about having those types of goals and tracking and communicating. So I can put that on all those thoughts and ideas on paper, and I can send that over to you, and we can share that in our next meeting.
Excellent. All right, so it sounds like we all have action steps for this one, and maybe what we can do is I can create like a collective working document as I get information. I can add it and I can send it back out to the committee so that we all are working from the same operation at the same time. Does that sound good to everybody?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? What did you want to do?
Yeah, so Ms. Powers, as you are fleshing out language, when you get to a place that you're happy with, if you can send that language to me, I will collect it and make sure that all the committee members have it, and I'll be doing the same with the language that Jen works on.
You mean for the next meeting, for the July meeting?
Next meeting's in August, so yeah, ahead of that meeting.
This meeting. All right.
So yeah, if we can do any wordsmithing before the meeting, I think we're going to be in a better place to take action when we do meet in August. And Jillian, thank you for taking that on for the budget subcommittee.
Yeah. I have a lot of spare time coming up.
All right. Well, I'm proud of us, everybody. We once again, in at least as far back as I know, which is only 5 years for the school committee, it's the first time I've seen committee goals and priorities. So I'm really excited. I think this is excellent. Thank you, everybody, for such a robust and informed conversation. Okay, to move on to, so we're not going to make so no motion needed. We're not going to select a priority tonight. We determined we're going to do 2 and we need to create goals. So we can move on to the Fruition Scholars Scholarship donation. Ms. Miller or Dr. Baeta? Yeah. Okay.
I'm happy to speak. I'm happy to speak to that. The Fruition Scholars Scholarship has been in place since I believe 2018. But this donation that was made by Mr. and Mrs. Motley, $4,000, is towards the Fruition Scholars Scholarship in honor and memory of their daughter, Kayla Motley. And so I would respectfully ask that the school committee accept this donation. This money will be put forward to continue the scholarship. It is a generous offer. It's for a very good cause and reason. And the Motleys have been instrumental in supporting our community in the past. And Mrs. Motley actually led the Fruition Scholars for several years when her girls were in the high school. So I would respectfully ask that the committee accept the donation.
Perfect. Any questions for Ms. Miller? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the Fruition Scholars Scholarship donation?
Motion to approve the Fruition Scholarship Scholar donation.
Perfect. That was made by Charlene. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second was Jillian. Motion has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote in the order that I see on my screen. Charlene?
Aye.
Karen? Sorry, Ms.
Aye.
Powers?
Aye.
Jillian?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries 5-0. Stoyak basketball 26-27 season waiver, Ms. Miller?
Mr. Delinsky has put forward to you the request to waive user fees for Stoyak for the 26-27 season. They typically use our facilities to conduct some of their games and practices. This has been something that you have approved in the past, and I would recommend doing so in this case as well.
Clarifying statement,
Any
just for everybody to
questions?
know. Just a clarifying
Yeah.
statement that also includes a request for signage. Just as you know, you have a signage policy. And so they would be putting up the signs via an email that they sent to the superintendent of schools, just saying this will be the start date and the end date is a 3-week period where the signs are up at the schools. And as a reminder to the committee, this does not include a waiver of custodial fees. This is just use of facility.
Thank you.
Any questions from the committee? I have two, just excuse my ignorance. I know we've approved this in the past, but it's just being super aware of pennies at this point, and aware of Dr. Baeda's caution in the past of needing to be extremely mindful and intentional of when we do waive fees. Is Stoyak a nonprofit? I'm assuming they are.
Yes, Stoic as a probably close to a 40-year history in Stoughton. It is a registered nonprofit organization. It's also a scholarship donor to our graduates every year. And their request has simply been to just pay for the custodial cost, which I think for next year is at $43 an hour or somewhere in that ballpark off the top of my head. So they'll still see that increase that you voted before. But they're also on your list as a nonprofit local organization because they have a direct impact where, almost 100% of their students are residents of the community.
And they do charge fees by making a waiver of the user fees for Stoyak. Does that mean that they're able to keep their fees for families at a lower rate?
Yeah, if you were to take a look at your hourly fees for the high school gym or the middle school gym or even the elementary gyms, all of that would have to be absorbed by the families, which would make it easily probably 4 times the fees that they currently pay, if not more. So there are plenty of organizations that are for profit that we should be making sure our user facility fees are not waived. But this is an organization that has a tremendous benefit to the community as a non-for-profit local community. But again, there are other organizations that are for profit that we should make sure that they do not get a waiver of facilities.
Yeah, perfect. Great. Those are all of my questions. Anything else from the committee members? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the Stoyak basketball FY 26-20 or school year 2026-2027 season waiver.
So moved.
That was Jen Sears. Do I have a second?
Second.
That was Charlene. Thank you. Motion has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote, order on my screen. Jen,
Aye.
Karen, Ms. Powers,
Aye.
Charlene,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
and I also vote aye, so the motion carries 5-0. Moving on to the Stoughton Equal Opportunity Committee, or SEOC applicant review. In your packet, you'll find 6 applicants for the SEOC committee. I do want to commend Jeffrey Pickett and our administration for the way they were able to get the word out about this. I'm thrilled with the fact that we had 6 applicants. So that is excellent. The applicants are in order received. Arduin Charlotte, Eber Bruno, Anita Alves, Boaz Petrus, Lenski Mintor, and Rosa Senia Santos. The administration has confirmed that all 6 have children currently enrolled in the district. The goal tonight is to select 4 of these candidates that we will recommend to the select board, who will be meeting to finalize the SEOC membership when they meet next Tuesday, June 22nd. So as we consider the candidates we want to select, please use asset-based language and speak about the representation we want on the SEOC rather than aspects we do not want on the SEOC. Any questions? And I see a hand from Jen.
Chris, why can't we take all 6?
We only have 4 slots. So remember that this was part of a proposed bylaw that was voted through town meeting in 2025. It has gone to the Attorney General, and the bylaw specifically states, and you received the language, if not last meeting, the meeting before that, you have no, it was our last meeting. You have the final bylaw language as approved by the Attorney General. There are 9 slots altogether. The town has 5 slots, and the school committee has 4 as written into the law.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? Anyone want to specifically speak to the qualities or characteristics that you think would benefit us in our representation on the SEOC? Yes, Jillian?
The only feedback from all look like great candidates. There's just 2 candidates that share the same address, and just not to have too many representation from one households just might be something to consider.
A great point, and that completely skipped my notice. So thank you so much for that.
I guess I have like a follow-up question. Do we get to like interview these people? Because it's kind of hard to see who they are from just one piece of paper.
Yeah, the Stone, I personally, I think the application for appointment to boards, commissions, or committees from the town, I feel the application wanting and not really providing us with detailed information. We can do that, but the select board will be voting on membership on Tuesday.
Okay.
Jen?
As Jillian noticed, same address. I just noticed 3 of them all work at the same company too. I don't know if you noticed that. Jillian noticed the address. I noticed 3 of them all work for the same company.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm. EAE Transportation LLC.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Given that, and to ensure diversity, how does the committee feel about maybe selecting one of those 3? And then just nominating the other three. Does that work for folks?
Yes,
Okay,
that sounds
so that narrows the selection. Okay, perfect. So we've got Arjuan, whose background includes education, college graduate, accounting in Haiti. We've got Eber. Apologies to folks who are watching this if I am butchering your name. Who has an associate's degree in human services. And then the final one would be Blensky Mentor, was a bachelor's in computer engineering. All of them, I believe, have equal availability according to their applications. Jen?
The first one where you said accounting in Haiti, I just don't know. I don't know if the other two are Haitians because it's not mentioned and that's not, but I know we have a large Haitian population in Stoughton. So maybe
We do.
that
Yeah.
person, because they are connected to Haiti, might be the best choice, but I can be overruled on that. But I just know that we have a large population of Haitian students here in our schools.
Yeah, agreed. Ms. Powers?
I would say I did like Blensky Mentor because they have a bachelor's in computer engineering. And I know when we agreed to the SEOC, what they were looking for was diversity and what people can bring to the group. So certainly a bachelor's degree in computer engineering would be highly beneficial.
Great point.
My opinion.
Charlene?
That's the one that I was gonna do, Belinsky Mentor, for the vote against the other that work at the same facility.
I had also identified that one for the same reason.
Chris, I see now too, this Rosa is, doesn't say what country, but does say she's new to this country. So maybe that would also bring some of the diversity onto the committee too.
Mhm, mhm.
So,
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Now, once again, I'm very pleased with the diversity of the folks who are willing to raise their hands for this opportunity and be part of the pilot for the SEOC. So it sounds like it's between Arjuan and Blensky for the fourth slot. Do we want to vote or do we already feel like we're in agreement? All right. I didn't hear you, Jen, but I can read lips and it sounded like you were in agreement.
yeah, sorry, I'm in agreement, whatever. Yes, whatever. So yes. So I think any of them would be excellent. It's amazing that they want to be on this. And maybe somebody changes their mind and we're able to offer it to somebody else. Or maybe the town side hasn't got 5 people and maybe we can give them one of the names and they could be representative from the town side. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right, so based on what I am hearing, is it fair to say that we would want to move forward Anita Alves, Boaz Petrus, Blensky Mentor, and Rosa Senya Santos as our 4 candidates? All right, can I have a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Thank you. So that was made by Jen Sears. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Jillian. Motion has been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just for informational,
Hearing
Chris.
none, roll call vote.
I was just going to say, just for information, we will send, I'll have a letter put together with your name on it for the purposes of appointment. And then a letter of thank you for the other 2 candidates that applied.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much, Dr. Baeta. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. It's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote. Jen,
Yes.
Ms. Powers,
Aye.
Jillian,
Aye.
Charlene,
Aye.
and I also vote aye. Motion carries 5. Congratulations, folks. We have our first representative on the first ever SEOC. Dr. Gaeta and Ms. Miller, let's talk about the Stoughton Teachers Association UP contract.
As the committee is aware, and Ms. Shannon was, Chris was the delegate representative from the school committee, Julie as the superintendent-elect, and let's just say the amount of work that this professional has done this year, having to be working on all of these negotiations, is kudos to her and her work, but also kudos that she's going into her first year as superintendent only having to address one contract instead of 6. So that's a good thing. And then Matt in the HR office, who's just full of information and gets you a ton of stuff. And then lastly, the work that Heidi provides us by just running the numbers and all that on the background. And then lastly, thank you to Unit B members under Danielle Gallant, who oversees Unit B, and their work and their team, Bethany and Rochelle, for the efforts. We have a 3-year tentative agreement based on your vote tonight. They've already voted to accept it. The percentage raises are the following. They are 2% for the upcoming school year, 3% in year 2, and 2.5% in year 3. The only other monies that are on there is clarity on longevity. It now establishes these cutoff zones instead of people being all over the place. And then lastly, professional development around course reimbursement, clarity, and workshops and professional development as well. We also created language of clarity for the secondary assistant principals and deans about after school responsibilities and what that means, and trying to be trying to be as equitable, number one, as possible, but then number two, balanced as much as possible in making sure that they're there to support not only the building principal, most importantly, the students' activities and all of that stuff. We also have language around everything to do with dues and all of that stuff. That's just equal language for everybody. We actually have agreements on little, what I would call little things, but just for that everybody knows, we have established rates for example, if you register for a conference and you're going to Connecticut and you're doing an overnight, if the conference is charging, the hotel room is $225 pre-tax, then that's what we pay. If you decide to get a better room, then the remaining difference is at your cost, not at our reimbursable cost. Those types of little things we cleared up, as well as how much money per diem for expenses such as food and all of that stuff. So we've established some of those norms going forward. This is a 3-year contract, and I am recommending that the school committee approve it, and I'll defer to both Julie and Chris that were present as well.
Yeah, excellent. I would just add to that
Julie?
too, that we added we aligned, or we started to align the days of absence or paid time off. We added the 3 days, which is
Yes. Yep.
in alignment with what happened with the Unit A contract. And also, I would just say, was really pleased with the atmosphere of negotiations with Unit B, like Unit A, very cooperative, very collaborative, a whole system of give and take, and a lot of great discussion about the betterment of what we do here and improving conditions for our employees, but also our students. So a lot of good conversation there.
I have nothing to add to that. That's very well said. Any questions from the committee about this contract? Hearing none, can I have a motion to approve the FY27 Stoughton Teachers Association Unit B negotiated contract? I know I need to, so as the chair, Joe, point of order, sorry. Can I make that motion as the chair? I know I have to vote in favor, but.
Joe, you're on mute.
Joe.
typically the chair accepts nominations as a practice
Right.
or recommendations.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Or
what it
motions in
sounded.
this
Okay.
case.
So I will accept a motion. Sorry.
So moved.
All right. That was made by Jen Sears. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second was made by Jillian Stefano. Motion moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. Roll call vote. Jen?
Aye.
Jillian?
Aye.
Charlene?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
And I also, aye. The motion carries 5-0. Moving on to old business and voting items, the Griffin O'Donnell Bridge Grant.
I have no updates at this time. I'm still trying to get some time in the next. I'd like to make sure that the legal counsel for the town has this on their radar on what the next steps would be. So I'm still working to address that. I did have a communication that went out. I'm just expecting a communication back. So I'll report out one way or the other in the next few weeks before I leave.
Perfect. All right, moving on to facility naming subcommittee recommendations.
Okay. So we met yesterday and we narrowed it down to 3 names that we would like to send out to the public for them to decide. So we have something decided in August. And the 3 names we decided on to ask the town was the Park Street School, the Cedar Hill School, and the South School. Those were the 3 names that we wanted to put out there. We were going to ask for Jeff's help to put out a survey so people could, decide on the names. And then in August, we can make a decision. Nothing ever came. Sorry, Julie, from the high school. We never got anything. So we never got 500 signatures for any name. So we went with these names.
Yeah, I think it was a valiant effort by the children and our students to try to participate. They just weren't able to complete what they had hoped. But we appreciate that the school committee did take under review their policy and make that amendment to allow our students to participate. And in the future, any naming opportunities will be available to them.
Yeah, we thought a lot of what TJ Recupero, or at least I did what he said when we had our meeting at the high school, that right now we don't really have anybody that, the town wants to name it after. So we choose one of these names that's more general. And then maybe in 10 years, we have somebody that, we get 500 signatures for, and we can change the name of the school.
And I'm on mute. Ms. Powers, sorry.
I have 2 questions on this. Were there any petitions made for names?
No.
0, none. There weren't.
Zero.
Children didn't do any.
No, and we even extended the deadline a few times, and nobody. No.
That's interesting because I signed a couple of petitions from students walking around. They never.
I
submitted.
did too, but I don't think they got the 500 required, Karen. And
Well, okay, so they didn't submit it because they never got that really high number of 500.
Yes.
All right. Do we know what they had wanted and how many they got?
No, I do not. I knew one. Roger Sherman was the name that they came up with. He was the signer of the Constitution for Connecticut, but I guess he grew up in what we know today as Canton. It was Stoughton then. So
Yeah.
after I did a little research, but I know they didn't get the 500.
That's too bad. They would have liked to have had their voice heard somewhere, somehow, because
Yep.
they weren't able to sit at the table with us when we were discussing it at public hearing. All right, that's basically it.
Jillian?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little bit on how we whittled it down to 3 names. So Jen and I had a fundamental disagreement on on the names, a very respectful, fundamental disagreement. There are a big group of people who like to keep it the South School. So we wanted to keep that as an option. So there is an identification there. Where I wanted something a little bit more generic, that's more like a clean slate, a new start, to welcome in all the kids that are going to be going to that school, in the future, unless there's a name that comes up at some point in time later in the future, which of course we're open to. So those are kind of how the names got in. Looking for, maintaining the South School, the respect and love for that area, and also having that, the options to have something different.
Thank you for that clarification. Appreciate that additional background. Jen?
I do want the public to know too, we do know that we're losing the name of the Jones School, that the Jones is closing. So we're hoping that we would be able to name maybe the cafeteria after Jones, one of the wings after the Jones. We are not forgetting EA Jones.
Yeah, we're definitely not losing that.
Yeah, we're going to tie that in somehow into the school.
Perfect. Thank you. Ms. Powers?
We're losing the Jones School, but also the Wilkins, even though it will still be there, the elementary students from the Wilkins will be moving to the new elementary school. And I know that there was some people in town that thought that they were also losing their school. So I would also say that a fresh slate would be nice, a fresh name.
We have to realize that a lot of students are going to be redistricted. So there are going to be kids. And then we're not changing the names of any of the other schools that we're going to be redistricting. The Wilkins is not going away. It still will be the Wilkins School. It will just become the preschool in town. But there are going to be kids that currently go to the Hanson that might be moving to the Gibbons, and Gibbons kids to the new school. They're not all, it's not just going to be Wilkins kids in South School, because we're going to redistrict the whole town.
I just meant for the naming purposes.
Yeah.
Dr. Baeta, you had your hand up, but you put it down.
Yeah, I just as a clarifying comment, the redistricting committee has a lot of pressure under them for what this is going to look like. And what I mean by that is, with so much changing demographics in the community, that new school is going to have to really be a balance of what we look like as a district. And so when you look at the town and you look at the physical space of the town, the likelihood that some students in every school are moving is very good. And the potential that you're going from district elementary schools, right? You're going from elementary schools that were, this is the part of town, this is where you go. This is the part of town, this is where you go. And now you're shifting all of that. So the naming of it does become important. And Dr. Sears and I have talked about this and don't necessarily agree 100%, and that's okay. I'm, as you all know, I am not a big fan of naming facilities after people, but I have no say in it. But I agree with some of the comments that have been made tonight that the inclusivity of this is important to a lot of our students. I recently interviewed with a student at the Wilkins School who asked me, why is the Wilkins closing? That was the question, right? Because in their mind, their school is going away. And this is a student who's entering 5th grade. So literally the following year, he goes to the middle school. So he wouldn't even be part of the move to a new elementary school. But yet he's so conscientious around the feeling that a lot of students in that school have. And he and a few of his peers let me know it. Number one, I mean, I did my one-to-one interview with him. He's an outstanding young man, but he's just being conscientious about what that means to a core group of students just at one school, the Wilkins, which is the one that was piggybacked to be part of this new reorganization. Although we don't necessarily know where the Wilkins schools are going. There's a very good chance that the Dar and the Hanson get hit with new students from the Wilkins, more so than the new elementary school does, just because of where it sits. And if you remember our heat patterns, remember those heat maps that we had, those heat maps are starting to slightly change, right? And so one of the things that the redistricting committee will be doing, and by the way, a letter will be going out in the next 24 to 48 hours on the appointment of a redistricting third-party consultant. If you remember, we were going out for that. That'll be named, literally, the team today had email communication about the selection. That group will be working to see what's the new heating map look like, and what is the impact on the streets and so on and so forth that will have to move. Today I saw a sign so close to the Gibbons school, but yet the student is attending the Hanson school, right? Just because the way it's divided on that street. And I was saying to myself, wow, never thought of that. Never thought that this street was going to the Hanson. I always thought that street went to the Gibbons. So we're going to be seeing a lot of that as well. So just wanted to put that just for educational purposes only. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So hopefully, Dr. Baeta, you can support the request to get those 3 names out to the families and students, and to Ms. Powers' point, it's an opportunity for us to be inclusive and make sure that they do have a say in what the name of that new building will be. So appreciate the work of the subcommittee on this very much. This is a very challenging decision to make. Yes, Mr. Pickett, you have your hand raised.
Thanks. I hope I'm not out of line asking a question, but I was just wondering the timeline of when we would like to send out a survey. Obviously, before our August meeting, school is ending next Wednesday, so I just wanted to try to get a sense of a timeline to work around.
Thank you. I imagine we'd want to do it as soon as possible, realizing that we have a very limited amount of time in which the students are still in school. So if it's possible to get that survey out before students leave for the summer, we do want to make sure that we have a chance to engage with families before school becomes a secondary thought.
And when would the deadline be?
Yeah, good question. Jillian, do you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah, so we want to make this vote on our next school committee meeting. We'd have to have enough time to make signage for the September groundbreaking. So if we could get that the week beforehand, so we can get in our packets.
So the week of the you're looking at approximately the week of the 12th, whatever that is, because your next meeting's on the 18th of August. So it would be a week before that, Jeff. And I think, Jeff, we should release it. We should release it in a couple different ways. The first one is, how much involvement do we want from all of our students at the 5 elementary schools right away, as well as 6 to 8, 9 to 12. Like, can we get a handle on them? And then we have the parents and the community as well. So we can meet tomorrow, Jeff, and really think about an attack plan that meets. Let's get this out right away to our students, to our families, to our community. And by community, I mean, can we put it in any information that the town side has, maybe on their website as a link, the town, what's it called, the crier,
Yep.
all of that stuff.
Ms. Perkins? Need to unmute?
To get into the permissions, can you hear me?
Yes.
I was just going to suggest, and I don't know if the town will do it, but it's a pretty big, item. So sometimes when they mail out the water bills, they'll put in an insert into a water bill about something big. So that might be an idea to get the word out. Just a thought.
It's a great idea. Thank you for that. Ms. Powers?
I don't know when the water bills come out again. I don't know if there would be enough time, but it is a great idea. So thank you for that. Also, I would like to put out that Roberta Harbach also puts out a crier online I don't see a lot of like the meetings and the subcommittee meetings placed in there for schools. I see a lot for the town. So I would like to see more participation from the schools with our meeting times and also with this.
We have been providing it, Ms. Powers, just to let you know, through Jeff's office and my office. So I don't know what the breakdown is. I'll ask. I'll reach out to Roberta myself.
Thank you. Ms. Miller?
Thank you. Also, the town has 3 digital signs that are in high traffic areas: the front of the water department, DPW, and high school. Perhaps there's some way to get some messaging on those 3 signs. I know I could handle the high school one, but communicating with the other 2 departments to see if they'd be willing to put some kind of message on there as well.
Great idea.
Perfect. And appreciate all these really great ideas and getting the word out. I'm curious, if we do a survey, is there a way to identify any potential duplications of responses?
I think so. I know that I have an option to collect email addresses. In order to strictly prevent duplication, I think I have to have people sign in, and that I think might be prohibitive in filling out the survey. But I know that we can collect email addresses because for the redistricting survey we just did, we did collect email addresses.
And Jeff, there is a function if you're going to use Google Forms, which I'm sort of anticipating, there is that function where you can, because if you're collecting email addresses, you can restrict it to only 1 response per email address. So you might be able to do that without forcing them to sign into like Google.
Right.
Yeah. So I think you'd be able to do that.
Yes, I'll look into exploring the best possible way to make sure that we aren't getting duplicates.
Ms. Powers, you had your hand up, and did you still have a comment?
Nope.
Okay. All right, perfect. All right, moving on then to our next agenda item. The Facility Condition Assessment Subcommittee, Dr. Baeta.
Yeah, so as you recall, you may recall, we had a third party that assessed all of our facilities and created our capital plan. It was the binder that you received and electronically also available. Just wanted to inform the committee that the facility subcommittee will now, since we now have that formal subcommittee, that should be the committee that should be recommending some major capital items, whatever that may be, going forward for the next 5 years, which also is something that also goes on a regular basis to the town. The town timeline is very, very time sensitive, right? So for the spring annual town meeting, it's right around that January timeline that everything is due. So as you're doing your budget process, we have to make sure that you're also working at that at the same time. And if you're looking at a potential special town meeting, which sometimes in Stoughton, a lot of the times in Stoughton is October, November, capital needs could also be taken up at that time. And those are usually due by September. So I just want the facilities subcommittee and Julie and then Dennis will be part of that. And then potentially the tech department and Heidi, that there's a sensitive time period there to get things done. So the sooner you start working on some of that stuff, the better. The 25-year plan that was given to us, literally 25 years of updates, it's a $285 million plan using today's money, right? So if you're 25 years from out, you might as well add another X percentage to that bottom number of that facility stuff. But there are a lot of items on there that you cannot place on facilities as a capital item because they're under $10,000. Okay, so any items that are $500, $900, $1,100, you have to incorporate that into your operating budget, unless it's the same item across the buildings. So let's say there's an HVAC issue at 3 buildings and it costs $15,000, then you could do that. But if you had an HVAC issue in one building for $7,000, it would not be part of your capital because it's not meeting your threshold of $10,000. So keep that in mind as you're working to the future about what is capital. And then one of the things to really start to look at is some funding within the operational budget that's going to be taking care of those $700, $1,500, $200 items that typically you don't budget for. The town side has created a article or has a capital of $75,000 for these types of emergencies. I would urge the committee to consider doing the same in the future, creating what would be an emergency line item of issues that come up that are not traditionally part of the operational budget. So they're not preventative maintenance items. So if you're cleaning out your HVAC systems every year, that would not be in that account. But if all of a sudden you have a unit at the high school that breaks down, it could come out of that account. So keep that in mind, because we do have some strategic moves that have been made by the town on how to do that on their operating budget. I'm suggesting that the school department take a look at that as an option as well. So you have a capital budget that works with the town, goes through the town process, but then potentially you have a emergency line or a non-operational line of something that breaks down that you have to fix. If you don't go that route, just for informational, there is an emergency line item of the finance committee that any department can request funding from. And that is a vote of the finance. That's a transfer of funds solely from the finance committee. It doesn't require a vote from anybody else, just requires it from the finance committee. The school committee does have that available to them as well. Just wanted to make sure you had all of that information.
Thank you. I'm taking a note of that. Perfect. Any questions around the facility condition assessment subcommittee? Charlene, did you ever get a binder with that information?
No.
Dr. Baeta and Julie, can you please make sure that she gets a binder of the full assessment so she's working with the same information?
Just wrote it down. Thank you. Sorry, Charlene.
No worries.
Next agenda item, FY27 district budget line item overview. Just a reminder, we voted on the budget last time, but the administration was going to work on adjusting the line item to match the budget amount that we have. Dr. Baeta?
Yeah, just to let you know, that's a work in progress. We just received some information today about a couple of lines that need to change because of people's salaries and that type of stuff. So that'll be an update. Does not change your bottom number, all of that stuff. The most important page that's been provided to you is the memo to you, Tom Coulter, and it also will go to the Finance Committee chair. That's been added. It's not on yours. And it comes from CC to me, but it comes from Matt in HR around our current discussions we had at the budget subcommittee chaired by Jillian and Chris as a member. These are the handouts that we provided the other day. We wanted to make sure through protocol and process that if the budget subcommittee gets something or any subcommittee gets something, that if we can get it to you on a timely basis, we will like we could with this one. So that memo just speaks to you about the total of the 49 people that were eligible for unemployment claim, 23 Unit A, 4 hall monitors, 5 K aides, 1 EL para, 2 non-union, and then 14 paras, or the last 15 are hired. That's all because of the bumping rules, a total of 49. And then the second columns, who took individual health care, a savings to the town of almost $158,000, and who took the family health plan that's now unemployed, which is about a savings of $140,000, or net savings of about almost $300,000 to the town's health insurance line item for July 1st. And then the big one, and that is the unemployment estimates. If all of these folks were to be unemployed and filed, and remember, people choose individually if they're going to file or not based on their tax bracket and all of that stuff. It's a very individual choice. It's about $1.1 million. that, we would need some type of allocation from. So we have a recommendation or a request. I'd actually say it's a you must do from Jillian and Chris to make sure that these budget subcommittee and then the full committee is getting as timely as possible a updated monthly unemployment line item, so that we can really keep a track of what that means. We would consider this one-time costs, so therefore the potential that support from the town would be available. We don't know. We've had, and I've worked with unemployment. I've unemployed 30 people before, and had, a projection of $900,000, $800,000, and only used $250. Still a lot of money, but the fact of the matter is, it all depends on where these folks end up. I will tell you that just this week, I had a finalist for a position in another school district accept that from Stoughton. That person was not on the unemployment line, but it creates the potential for somebody on the unemployment line to get the job. So a person chose to apply someone else. They got the job somewhere else. They're leaving us. Potentially somebody on the unemployment line can apply for that job and now has moved into that job. So you're going to see some of that over the next few weeks and throughout the summer. And Julie and I have talked about this in a lot of detail, and really making sure that any savings there is to hiring and in that process, that those funds are untouchable funds. Those are funds that Heidi and Julie should have really like concrete information on as much as possible, and not touch those funds. Just let them be there to see what you have, because we know that some of those funds may have to be used for other items. And then lastly on this would be, I would anticipate this summer that you have a good number of changes in personnel. Not huge numbers, but enough where you're going to lose someone at a certain salary and be able to hire at a lesser salary just because of experience. I did receive today a very concrete and detailed request for the K-paras. I continue to tell them that those continue to always be a priority, but at this time, with unemploying all these folks, that I just don't see it happening anytime soon. We do have some good class sizes in some areas, and we have some class sizes in K in other areas that we have to keep an eye on. But bringing back people right now, the vote was very clear. It was 44 for, 79 against. Town meeting reps in the town of Stoughton articulated their view on using free cash for the school department, and that is what we're living with. We're living with that vote, and that's what we're doing with as of July 1st. I'll take any questions.
Yeah, I just want to bring up the recent development of House 2 being passed, and the amount of funding for Chapter 70 increased from $75 per student up to, I believe it was $165 per student.
160.
Yeah, 160. Now, I have been asked by people, does this, affect our budget that we have approved? Does this save any jobs that are upcoming? And my response has been, no, just because we have a budget that's been voted on already. My question, I guess, is how do these funds make their way back to school that has been approved by the state?
Yeah, so there's two parts to that. First of all, we should request after, any time now, but really after the budget is approved by the state. I don't think that's going to be until, I don't think the full budget's going to be approved until the end of this month, maybe even July. But once we have the budget is done and voted, the vetoes have been accepted and rejected by the governor and all of that stuff, then your budget is done. Once that's done, then we'll have our most updated cherry sheet from the state Department of Revenue, right? And that Department of Revenue cherry sheet will give you the bottom number of any new monies and funds that are available to us. Now, typically, the difference between the 75 and the 160 would be totally available. But as you recall, that is not necessarily the mathematics that's done by municipal government in Stoughton. What's done by municipal government in Stoughton is they work through all of that and what does it mean to Southeastern Regional, Norfolk Aggie, their own budget. They take their chunk and then we get the remaining. So will there be $340,000 more available or less? Right now, I believe the number would be less. But that doesn't make an argument that you can't go to town meeting and say, well, no, we should be getting all of that or more. And part of that is, as I've articulated a number of times, the way that we do this is that the cherry sheet has all the information. The town takes the cherry sheet, and then whatever's left is ours. What's been happening. So, and that's been happening for years. It's not new. And so what happens is that Chapter 70 funds are actually being taken away from us before they even show up. That's what's happened for 3 years that I've been here. So we're just looking for the extra SOA money, which we learned this year just wasn't there based on the enrollment. So to your question, A, no, those funds are currently not available to. B, they're available to you potentially at a special town meeting. The argument would be, what is the availability?
I'm sorry, I'm getting a phone call from the hospital that I'm going to tomorrow, so I just gotta step out for a second.
Yes, that is a priority,
take notes,
Mom.
thank you.
That's a priority for you. So that's the general answer is that we don't know what those final numbers currently are. We'll know them after the full budget is completed, which I expect to see should be in the next 2 to 3 weeks, but you never know.
Thank you. Ms. Powers?
Excuse me for that. Can you just tell me where on the budget sheet is the line item for the unemployment?
It's towards the back end of
Heidi?
the line item. It's towards the back end of the line item budget. Let me.
Do you have the page number?
I will attempt to find that for you right now.
Thanks.
I know that Heidi's looking for it too. Did you get it yet? Did you see it before I did?
Page 28.
So page 28. Right at the top, line item 4 has $150,000 in it.
Thank
So-
you, Heidi.
So that's for the unemployment, that's line is for unemployment. So the unemployment is not paid for through the town at all? It's not shared through the town?
Yes, that's a great question, Ms. Powers. Thank you for asking that. So this is the first time in my 17 years where unemployment is actually on the school budget side, not on the town side. This is the way Stoughton works. So right now, your unemployment line item on 150 is part of your bottom line budget. So if your unemployment line actually gets increased, that's actually going to increase your bottom number, which means your bottom number for starting for next year would actually be higher than the bottom number that you voted. And that's the reason why a lot of towns put the unemployment on a shared cost. That way, it doesn't count as part of the school budget's yearly increase because it's shared costs. I don't know if that makes sense, but think of it this way. If I'm unemployed by the town of Stoughton, that comes out of a shared cost line and not the bottom line of the school department. So therefore next year, my salary doesn't increase because I'm no longer here under unemployment. Basically, that's the way it works. So the goal would be that we have that discussion with the town that, hey, you don't have to increase our bottom number. If you take the unemployment and shared cost it, then our actually bottom number would come down by $150,000. So that 150 that you have right now wouldn't be there. It would be our bottom number that you would have voted would have potentially been $150,000 less, as an example. So if you're at a vocational school, it works totally different because they're a regional. As a regional, they are their own town. They don't go to anybody else for unemployment. There's no shared costs. When you're a comprehensive like us, usually things like the SRO and crossing guards and healthcare and then unemployment is in there. Sometimes crossing guards are part of the school budget. You know, so you take unemployment and you make sure it's on the town side, or not the town side, but the shared costs. But we absorb the day-to-day operations of the crossing guards. So they become our responsibility. That was my last town. So on a year when I was unemploying everybody or had a lot of people unemployed, the town manager and I had to talk about what that number would be. Like, I'm going to lay off 30 people. Okay, so we got to put $750 aside. And then if that money wasn't utilized, then it became free cash at the end of the year. Stoughton just does it in a different way. It is part of our bottom number.
Okay. And there's possibly 300, if I understood right, $340,000 that's potentially there from House 2?
Correct. Potentially.
Okay. And is that included in our bottom number?
No, that money, that's in the general fund. That money would go to the, if all of it was available, it would be available in Chapter 70 notation as part of the Department of Revenue, and then available to us later on if made available to us.
Okay, so is there any other funds that we are anticipating?
I would say, dependent on how you look at something like unemployment, it would be free cash because it would be a one-time cost. In other words, those folks are out for one time. It's a 1-year item, and it's not part of your operating budget. So you're not sustaining it with those people year after year.
Okay.
The only other funds that would be available, Ms. Powers, would be the utilization that funds become available for special circumstances and situations. Right now, and I'm going to speak to it in a second, it's something that just came in. Graduation requirements are changing. And so there's some discussions about giving schools more money to support graduation requirements, but those would be very specific earmarked funds. They would not be available to other things that the school committee or the superintendent would want to do.
Okay, all right. And unfortunately, I had to miss the last meeting, but I do just on my own behalf wanted to take the opportunity to thank town meeting for their efforts. I know it was a difficult vote, but I don't hold any grudges or anything. I know they did what they needed to do, what they felt was right. And so I just want to say to the town meeting representatives, thank you for volunteering and for representing your certain districts and your neighbors.
Ms. Perkins, did you still have a comment or something you wanted to say?
Just to add a little bit of detail, is I know part of their priorities to find out about the money, where it's going and what's there. Wanted to add a little bit that our line item for unemployment, we usually spend that or possibly over that in a normal year without all these layoffs. So that would not go towards this potential layoff amount that Matt put together for the layoffs that we had. That would be sort of just through the year as things happen, right? So just making sure that everybody knows that wouldn't be used towards that group because we use that amount every year anyway. I did mention, I think at the last meeting too, and if it's something that the committee wants to discuss with the town in Mansfield, I personally feel they have a very good model. As Dr. Bayeta just mentioned, some towns consider it one time out of free cash. Mansfield does that every year. All the town and school unemployment is voted to be paid out of free cash at their town meeting every single year. They consider it one time. And specifically in this case, this large amount of change of staffing is one time. People collect for 20 weeks essentially, and then they won't be collecting again, this group. So it might be something, if the committee wants to just put that on their list of potential discussion. And then the other on the turnover of these positions, some of them with jockeying around, people moving around, et cetera. The savings within this group, we have already captured in this budget. So as you know, we knew some things would be moving around, and the positions that had to be reposted, for example, we had normal retirements that there wasn't anybody within our existing staff that had the licenses to fill those jobs. So we do have a few jobs out in case the committee members hear something like, oh, the school's laying off some people. Why are they posting some jobs? They were specific that we didn't have anybody in-house. So that's the savings on those have already been captured in the budget that you have before you. We already took out the amount that all the people were getting paid and put in a very low hiring range, which is what we do every year. So I just wanted to add a little bit of richness to that discussion, if it helps.
Just to piggyback real quick, an example of what's different from that statement that is actually 100% accurate by Heidi would be the example I just gave of a person who's leaving. That person is leaving at X number. We don't necessarily have to hire at that number. So therefore, we could see a savings, but that would be unanticipated folks that were not part of this entire budget process, just so that you know. I do have, Madam Chair, after this, just a couple of items that came up post the posting of the meeting that are just informational. Before we move to Julie, if that's okay with you.
Yep. Any other questions about the line item overview? Okay, hearing none. Dr. Baeta, you had some informational
I did.
updates?
I wanted to inform the board that the SMAC, which is our local cable, that you no longer have a representative on the board. They have changed their way of selecting the board, and you and the select board no longer have a say. So every 3 years, the school committee, this was the year that it was coming up actually, you'd be voting for a SMAC representative to be, or school committee representative to SMAC. Those days are done. They've changed the way they do business, and you no longer have a SMAC representative to the, our school committee representative to the SMAC. I want to thank all those involved, but especially the hard work of Julie Miller for the commissioner's visit. We had a very successful visit on Friday with the commissioner. Thank you to those who were able to participate, to our teachers, most importantly to our students who are a gold mine of information to the commissioner, very much engaged with our students. He loved the tour, and we talked about a lot of things. Chris made sure that he heard about declining enrollment and the being a community that supported the shelter students. I hit him on the Stoughton Academy and how can we get that funded so that people don't have to pay a full tuition to attend it, so it becomes a true dropout prevention and enhancement program. So we had a really good visit. I just want to publicly thank Julie and her team for doing all that work, because literally I did nothing. I showed up. I want to thank, it's kind of funny, the timeliness with Jillian. Jillian, congratulations. It's our last time together. I just wanted to wish you congratulations. And then it's my last time with you folks, and I don't want to do this later. I want to do it now. Through the differences of opinion, to the differences of expectations, it's been my pleasure to work with the 5 of you through the good days and the bad days and all that stuff. And of course, to my team, thank you. And I'm going to still be a Stoughton resident. Anytime you need me to support public education, I'm here and I'll do whatever you want. So that's my goodbye. I do not want to do it again. And I am here just for the rest of business. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Baeta.
Best of luck in your next superintendent job, Joe. Really, they're gonna, I'm sure they're gonna love you as much as we
Thanks,
do.
KP. Appreciate you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Ms. Miller, transition and 90-day plan.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to try to share my screen. I hope I can do that. I think I can. Perfect. Can you see that?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. So after that, well wishes by Dr. Baeta, we will definitely miss you. This has been a very interesting year for me. I'm holding both roles as superintendent-elect and principal. I think I have a few more gray hairs, but it's been fabulous and it's been an awesome opportunity. I just want to thank the Stoughton School Committee for allowing this process to move forward in this way. I think it has helped put Stoughton in a great position for next year and moving forward. I would like to say that, what's different about my 90-day plan as opposed to perhaps other superintendents in the past is that this is less about learning about the district at this point coming into 90 days and more about shifting my perspective from wearing my principal hat to wearing a more school-based, wearing a more district-wide perspective. And so it's less about learning and more about transitioning and stabilizing moving forward. And so I have thought about this quite a bit in terms of what these first 90 days will be. And even though I've been here for a long time in Stoughton, had this opportunity to be a transition and in this transition plan this year, it's still important that I take this year to listen and learn as well, and not start off by making some big changes and initiatives. It's more about building trust and strengthening systems and establishing clarity around priorities and ensuring that the district enters 26-27 positioned for success. And so I think about this in 3 phases: listening and assessing, aligning and planning, and launching and preparing. In that first phase, which would be the first 30 days or so of my transition, which would basically be the month of July, I have a couple of major priorities. The first being financial, which has been a major part of this conversation and the major part of many conversations of the past few months. I want to make sure that my objective is to develop a comprehensive understanding of the district's current financial position as we close out FY26 and we begin to implement FY27. Some of the things that I will take underway to make sure that that is happening is reviewing the FY26 closeout process very carefully with Ms. Perkins, assessing the outstanding obligations and liabilities, reviewing grant balances and revolving accounts, examining special education expenditures and obligations, monitoring the FY27 budget implementation, reviewing our enrollment and staffing projections as we move forward. The second priority would be seeking an independent financial review and transparency initiative. I think this is a really important step to take as part of NISIP, which is the new superintendent induction program, and the state organization for superintendents really recommends that new superintendents take this step. And I think after town meeting and observing and listening to the conversation in town meeting, I think this is a really huge, important step for Stoughton Public Schools to endeavor in, to start to ensure that we are transparent and can start to build those relationships with the town. And so some of the things that would fall under this priority would be to develop a scope of work for external review, solicit proposals from qualified firms, select a vendor for a third party, and communicate the purpose and expectations to stakeholders of what that review would entail. My third priority within this listen and assess stabilizing phase 1 would be listening and relationship building, strengthening partnerships, gathering perspectives, continue to do so. I've been doing that quite a bit this year, but with a different lens come July 1. And this will be, seeking to meet individually with school committee members, continue that, town managers, finance committee leadership, union leadership, and continue those partnerships with those guiding questions in mind of, what's working well, what challenges need our attention, what opportunities should we explore, and what should the district prioritize moving forward. And that would take us pretty much into August for phase 2, where I would be thinking very carefully about leadership team development, ensuring that district leadership enters the year aligned and collaborative and focused on shared goals. And that would take the form of facilitating the district leadership retreat, establishing leadership expectations and norms, clarifying roles and responsibilities, strengthening communication and decision-making processes, and reviewing our district strategic priorities as we move forward. My fifth priority in this 90 days would be to focus district efforts on a manageable number of high impact goals. We already have a triennial plan, and so of course that's going to be guiding that work. But with some of the changes in finances and our stability and our staffing, some of those goals we'll need to look at carefully. So reviewing those strategic initiatives, analyzing stakeholder feedback, making sure our priorities are aligned with the vision of the graduate, and then identifying any key district goals for the upcoming year if we need to make any revisions, additions, or edits. My sixth priority would be leveraging statewide expertise and best practices to support district improvement. That will one of those things that I will do to ensure that is happening is I plan to attend the superintendent's conference over the summer. I will be continuing to participate in NISIP, which is the new superintendent induction program. I'll be entering year 2. Through that program, I have a mentor, and I also have built some relationships for a pretty wide networking of other superintendents across the state. So I have lots of opportunity there to continue that and to bring back best practices and expertise to Stoughton. That kind of brings us into phase 3 and making sure that we are opening school and that we're ready to open school, monitoring staffing and hiring, supporting onboarding of new employees, reviewing transportation readiness, facilities readiness, technology readiness, and collaborating with principals regarding what needs they have. And my final priority would be communication and community engagement, certainly not the least of my priorities, but the last one that I'm listing here, on being sure to share opening of school messages to the community, communicating district priorities, providing updates on financial review process, and establishing regular communication between myself and all the various stakeholders. The desired outcome here, it should be obvious. It's about increasing transparency, consistent communication, and building really a strong community engagement and network. And sorry, I'm a little dry here. But as we move forward, some indicators that you may look at to assess whether or not I am making progress in that 90 days would be completing, the fiscal year review, monitoring the progress of FY27, the financial review by an independent party, beginning the FY28 planning discussions, which will obviously happen sooner than later. They'll be here before we know it. Conducting leadership retreats and expectations and structures, aligning our district leadership around priorities, meeting with key stakeholders and groups, strengthening our relationships with our municipal leaders, and developing ongoing communication structures. And of course, in terms of operations, schools will have opened successfully, new staff will be onboarded and feeling supported, and our operational readiness will have been verified. And finally, in terms of strategic direction, establishing district priorities in 2026-27 will have happened. Our work will be aligned with the vision of the graduate, and there'll be a roadmap for us to look at and follow for the remainder of the school year. And that is my 90-day transition plan. Any questions?
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, any questions from the committee?
I just want to thank Julie for writing my 90-day plan for Laconia.
Happy to help, Joe.
Really well done. Kudos to you. Really well done. It speaks volumes to the leader you're going to be.
Thank you.
And already are.
I did have 2 questions. One question about the transition plan and one that may be more of a point of order. The independent fiscal review, Julie, that you're planning. I know that the biggest challenge there, the 2 biggest challenge areas we have, one is transportation and one, of course, is special education. Is there going to be a particular focus on those 2 areas? Because I know that is where, especially in special education, where we seem to be caught by surprise a lot.
Yeah, I do have some serious questions about how that process is operating and the efficiencies or inefficiencies maybe that are happening there, or potentially our lack of communication. So there's a lot that goes into that, I think. Obviously, there are certain things you can't plan for, right? A student moves in, you weren't expecting that. Transportation bill suddenly comes in that is far higher than we anticipated, or some kind of tuition is increased. As we know that from previous presentations, our private placements don't tell us what their increases are until after our budget is well underdone. So definitely will be part of that process, and a big focus of it would be looking at that, but really looking at the district as a whole, so that we're able to show transparency in a very real way to not only to the school committee, but also the school community and town meeting, as we move forward and help bridge that relationship.
Thank you. Do you foresee that independent review being completed before we meet in August 18th?
I doubt that would be possible in terms of that. I can't really start undergoing that process until July 1. I'm fairly certain there would need to be a bid process, a procurement process that happens as a part of that. And so I don't think it would be done by August, but I would imagine by the end of September for sure.
Joe? You're on mute.
That's probably the best part, right? Being on mute. I did this going into my last district because of concerns I had at the time, and I've highly recommended this to Julie in, I would say, the last probably 7 or 8 months. If I was here on July 1, I would absolutely be undertaking this. So I think this is kudos. We have to find the money and all of that stuff. It does take people, so it's going to require well into September, October for this to happen. So you're talking about hopefully getting something to you as early on as December, so you can incorporate it as part of your budget process for the future, the changes, the additions, the subtractions, whatever it may be. But I have to tell you, I wholeheartedly support this and believe it's an initiative that needs to happen. And because I believe that long-term, the fiscal responsibility that the district has will have you, the 5 of you, have that outcome from her leadership to get this report to you and say, this is what we need to do to move forward.
Thank you. And one other question for you, although this might be, I'm just can't remember the order. Will you be using the district priorities to establish your goals for evaluation, Julie?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And we should talk about at some point when you would like to see those from me. But yes.
Yeah, I imagine we would want to see them early in the year because I believe you have a 1-year evaluation your first year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I imagine we'd want to see that by our first or second meeting in September, if possible.
Perfect.
Right. Excellent. Any other questions for Ms. Miller? Thank you so much for that. Moving on to the next line item. Pardon me?
I just said that you're very welcome. My pleasure.
Oh, okay. Next line item is appointments. My apologies. I did not know until just before our meeting that the appointment list was not included in your packet. So my recommendation, I did email it out. We will include it in the next packet. I recommend that we take a look at it at that point. Just a reminder, the policy, the chair makes the appointments with the approval of the school committee. There are 2 appointments, however, that are mandated by law. The North River Collaborative appointment has to be the superintendent of schools. So we do need to make a vote to approve Superintendent Miller, no longer superintendent-elect. Moving on ceremony for her as our representative to the North River Collaborative, and the other appointment is the Pilgrim Area Collaborative. Is requirement that be the school committee chair. So if we can go ahead and vote on at least those 2, and then we can talk about the remainder of the appointments when we meet in August. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve Ms. Miller for the North. Yes, Dr. Beto?
I just want to make sure, I'm sorry, the language, I can read you the
specific language for both appointments under the law that I have in front of me. So
Somebody just needs to motion it and second it.
Okay, that sounds perfect. I believe we did that last year, didn't we?
Correct.
Okay, so can you give me the motion? Thank you for North River Collaborative.
Yes, would a member of the school committee please move to appoint Juliet Miller to serve as the representative of Stoughton Public Schools, of the Stoughton Public Schools School Committee on the North River Educational Collaborative Board of Directors for the upcoming school year, with all voting powers and responsibility ascribed by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, subsection 4E.
So moved.
All right, that was Jillian. Do I have a second?
Second.
A second was Jen Sears. Motion has been moved and second. Roll call, Jillian,
Aye.
Ms. Powers? If you're speaking, you're on mute.
Aye.
Thank you. Charlene?
Aye.
And Jen?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Motion carries 5-0. And Dr. Baeta, the wording for the second nomination or motion?
A motion to move to appoint school committee member Chris Shannon to serve as the representative of the Stoughton Public Schools School Committee on the Pilgrim Area Collaborative Board of Directors for the upcoming 26-27 school year, with all voting powers and responsibilities as per Mass General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 4E.
So moved.
All right, that was Jen Sears. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
I'll give that to Charlene. Thank you. Motion has been moved and seconded. We'll call vote. Jillian?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Aye.
Charlene?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
And I also vote aye. That motion carries 5-0. Thank you for that. And we will save the discussion for the rest of the appointments in August when you've had a chance to review that. Moving on to the policy subcommittee. Jen?
We looked at a couple of I'm not on mute. We looked at a couple of policies. We have them here. We looked at the wellness policy and we looked at a student cell phone policy. So we're giving them to you for informational to see two policies that we had to make some changes. Jonathan might be better actually to speak about it. I know for the cell phone, we're trying to get some grants to help us pay for 2 ways. We're going to try to cut down on cell phone use, especially at the high school. One of them would be the pouches. Go ahead, Jonathan. I think you're better explain.
Yeah, so first of all, just look at the wellness policy. The district did recently have a review by the state. And as part of the review, policy ADF wellness policy was reviewed, and they made a determination that we needed to add a food and beverage marketing component, which is what we've added in this policy that you see in front of you. The second piece is, as Dr. Sears said, we are in the process of applying for a grant. As you probably know, currently there's competing bills that have to do with a student cell phone ban in public schools. And in supporting that piece, the AGO's office provided us with a model policy, and there's an implementation grant that we wrote and submitted. This policy lines up with what their recommended policy was adopted for Stoughton, and it supports us in our efforts to get a grant that would go ahead and pay for the implementation of the lockable cases and the software, the lockout software, that would meet the requirements of the bill that's currently in the Senate and the House. So we're asking you to look at that and potentially vote this at the next meeting.
Thank you. Any questions? Ms. Powers?
Do we have a price tag for this?
Yeah, absolutely. When we priced it out, our material cost, the software course cost would be about $36,000. The entirety of which we applied for within the AGO grant.
And what about, can you explain a little bit more about this policy?
So,
Because this is new, right? We don't really have this kind of a cell phone. It's about locking pouches?
so there's a bill that was initially in the Senate that had to do with banning cell phones in schools. And what ended up happening, that bill then went to the House, and they approved those components from the Senate bill, but then they added on like a ban on social media. So there's language floating between the two bills. I believe it's in Conference Committee right now, and they're working out the differences. But one of the things that goes along with it is initially it was a ban on cell phones in schools with the push towards like the pouch or a lockable case. But there's also software called Dorman software that had a group that went and advocated with the House to add additional language that would allow a school to put in lockout software on a cell phone. So when a student brought their cell phone to school, they could enter a code or enter a software, and they could lock out the phone during the school day. What we're looking to do with our policy, and this is an adoption that allows us to actually utilize both methodologies, is provide a scenario where students can utilize software and bring their phone to school, and then lock it out during class and lock out all the apps that would provide a distraction, or use a lockable case so that the cell phone is not accessible to them during school. So they would lock it in the case at the beginning of the day, and then there's like a magnet that would unlock the case as they exit the building at the end of the day. We in our policy, it allows both those methodologies to be used at the high school, which gives either the student or the administration more flexibility in implementing the plan to figure out what works best, or just to give some ability to adjust based on what's going on. And it also completely meets the requirements of the grant that we're looking to get to go ahead and fund this whole implementation. Now, it's a funny bill because it hasn't actually been passed, but there are deadlines within both bills of a September 1st implementation. There's also components of both bills which state if we don't implement our own policy, that we're going to be required to implement a state policy that will be made available before September 1st. So although there wasn't a lot of time leading up to us implementing this, we do need to actually get this policy in place by September 1st to avoid being required to implement whatever policy the state or the DES comes out with. And also, this policy, I think, gives us a lot of flexibility and absolutely supports our grant application with the APOs.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other questions? Ms. Powers?
All right, so I just want to make sure that I understand it. There's going to be two separate locks that families could choose from. One is an actual lock box or pouch or whatever that would lock via a magnet at the doors. And the second one would be software that they would download onto their phones, and that would be implemented through the schools also.
Yes.
Is that right? And the whole thing would cost the schools $36,000. And there may be a grant for that if we have the language in place. And the grant is for $36,000.
So we went ahead and elicited quotes after doing some research on what the best products were. And the amount of money available through the grant for us will absolutely cover the cost, the complete implementation cost. Now, what we designed in our policy and what we brought forward to them actually models all the requirements that go along with the grant. So our policy is their model policy adapted for Stoughton. And everything that we're proposing lines up not only with what comes out of the AGO's office, but also what you're seeing in terms of the language in the House bill and the Senate bill. So if things go how we hope they go, there is no cost to the district. If there were in fact a cost, we could ramp this up in terms of the boxes, the lockable boxes, or ramp it back and absolutely control the cost from approximately $7,000 if we had to implement ourselves, with a less flexible model up to the full amount, which we actually anticipate getting from the state to implement at no cost to the district.
And is there a recurring cost?
The recurring cost, if we were fully going with the boxes, would be about $1,000 a year. The reoccurring cost for the software is about $6,000 annually. The upfront cost for the locking boxes, I believe, is about $32,000, whereas the software is just a static cost of $6,000.
So it'll be, I want to make sure I understand this correctly, $7,000 a year recurring?
Well, I would anticipate a recurring cost of $6,000 a year, because I don't anticipate people utilizing the locking box as opposed to using the software once they see what their options are. One is, in my mind, and I think virtually everybody I spoke to, a much better option for kids and families. But at the same time, working through the grant and working through the policy and what the expectations are, and there being that level of uncertainty from the state as to what the law is going to look like, this is a very safe approach for us, and it gives us a great deal of flexibility if the bills that come out of the House and Senate don't reflect what we think they will at this time.
So if we don't do the software and we just do the locking box, the recurring cost will be about $1,000 a year?
With an upfront cost of about $32,000.
Oh, I thought you
Well-
said an upfront cost of $7,000.
No. Well, if we didn't get the grant and we wanted to scale it back, we could actually implement for about $7,000 or $8,000, maybe $7,000, $8,000. But I anticipate us getting the grant and not having to worry about that cost. The thing about the software, though, and if anybody that has experience with this, and Ms. Miller might be able to speak to it because I know she has a team going out to one of the high schools that piloted this program, or you've already had a team go out, I would imagine at this point. It just seems like a much better option. The other thing with the software component is it does integrate with the district data management system, and we can use it for attendance. And we can actually, that whole logging in and logging out of a classroom can control what the access the students have to their phone, as well as allow us to get in real time attendance in all of our classrooms.
So is there a privacy issue?
Not
Sounds
that
like
we
it would be a privacy type.
I don't
You'll get
think there's any kind of,
Oh, the schools will get information from the
no,
students
not at all.
with a software installed onto their phones?
No, we don't get any information from the
You
students
get
at all.
attendance information.
What's that?
You get attendance information?
Well, if a student if we have it's like a card that the phone would interface with. When a student went to their classroom, they could log in using the card. That would just lock out the distracting components of their phone. All we know is the students in class. We don't have access to their phone.
No,
I
I
mean-
said information on their phone, like if we're gonna do attendance, if you're saying that we could do attendance through this application that's downloaded on students' phones, then that would, I would assume, give the administration or the school system at least their names and maybe their birth dates or some kind of student number that would identify the students if we're taking attendance through this app.
We already have all that information. And it would just let you know that that individual student was where they're supposed to be.
But the school would be able to collect that from the app that's on their phone.
No, we wouldn't collect any information from the app other than the fact that that application is at a given point at a given time. The app doesn't collect information and it doesn't share information with us, except for the fact the student is logging in at a given time. So we don't collect information from the students with the application.
That doesn't, anyway.
And
Okay, and what if the bill through the Senate and the House doesn't go through, or it does go through, so it's kind of two questions. If it does go through, what is their plan? So if we decide not to spend the $32,000 up front, 32,000 up front, and then hope to get the grant, what would be what the state is?
So the bill's already passed both the House and the Senate. So it's passed both. The thing right now is there's differences in the language. And it's the fact that the House added in the social media component. But that will be resolved between the two. Now, the reason I think that we're going to get the funding is because if they didn't give us the funding through the grant, it would be considered an unfunded mandate if there's a material cost, which means we would have the ability to not implement and go to and ask for relief through whatever the local court is. So they have an incentive to fund us and everybody else that applies for that grant, just because it makes this implementation of this law a funded mandate.
So what if we decide as a school committee to not implement this? What would be the state's? So you would say we would have to go with what the state decided. What is the state's plan?
Well, we have not seen that yet. And I think that's why it's in our best interest to go ahead and move forward with our own policy that we have control of, as opposed to losing control of this.
All right. I would like to see the state's plan before we make a vote, so we can, see both of them. Hopefully by August, maybe we'll see that, because you said it's already passed, so they must have an idea of what their plan would be for schools.
So it's passed the House and it's passed the Senate as a bill,
Yeah.
but it hasn't gone through the conference committee and then been voted in its entirety to be a law.
Mhm.
But this policy is the policy that we submitted with our grant application for funding, not as a complete policy, but as a policy in process. I think there's an expectation for the group that's going to provide us grant funding that this is at least close to what the product is.
Can we see like the bills that have gone through, the House and the Senate bill, so we have a better understanding of what they're mandating?
Yeah, they're both available on their website, both versions.
Is it possible for you to send that to the committee so we have a chance to look at it before we vote on this? Because you
Absolutely.
said you want it voted, you want us vote it next meeting, which is August, before the school year starts.
I would prefer that it's voted as soon as possible. But if you want to take more time and run full process, you absolutely can. That's a prerogative.
Yeah, I mean, we have 2 months, so personally, I would love it if you were able to send that to us, or at least to me. I'm interested.
Hey, Ms. Powers, if I may just interject for a quick second, through you, Madam Chair, sorry. So I think that Mr. Ford has done something really unique and interesting, which is he's kind of tied in the grant application with the potential policy for Stoughton, right? So if you don't get a grant, then how do you move the policy forward? That's number one. Number two, the committee needs to keep in mind that this is the 117th time that the state legislature is passing an unfunded mandate, because there's going to be recurring costs every single year. Right, the software is going to cost you. Right, so if in year 2 we're doing this, year 3 we're doing this.
It's not mandated. Like what if the software isn't mandated?
Well,
But just
so,
the lock boxes, then it's not 6,000 a year.
right. So the question,
I want to know what the cost is
Right.
going to be. And, if we have to incur it.
yeah, our association my association, the Superintendent Association, took the perspective that this is yet another unfunded mandate. But we know that the social media part of this is really important. And I will speak to this about Stoughton. Are there issues with cell phones in our schools? Yes. Are they where they were 2 or 3 years ago? No. I would say that they're better. Doesn't mean that they're not there. So we're yet again legislating something, which I think is, as you probably know, Karen, is not my cup of tea. I'm not sure that legislation is the way to go. I think it's more about practice and expectations. But that said, what Jonathan has done is really just make sure that if there is going to be money available, we're going to be at the top of the heap of them saying yes or no to us, because we were one of the first ones to apply for it through his work and Julie's work. So that's the benefit.
Grants always come with strings. So I just want to make sure that we know what all the strings are, so we can make an informed decision. That's all.
Madam Chair, could I speak, please? Thank you. Ms. Powers, I can echo your concerns, and what I know from the cell phone policies that have gone through under the law legislation that has been proposed is they're advocating and strongly worded language about bell-to-bell bans. That's what they want to see in schools. They don't want cell phones to be accessible to kids from bell to bell, meaning from the time we start school to the time we end school. I can't imagine that the state is going to put a policy together that dictates how the school district is supposed to implement that ban. So I can't imagine they're going to mandate boxes or mandate software or mandate one method over another, only because that's like proprietary. Like you can't dictate to a school district to use the software when that's going to impede families who may not want school districts to have them download a software onto their cell phones, right? Or there's lots of people that find that is a privacy issue for yours. Although we aren't collecting information, there are people that will be skeptical about that. And that's why we're also implementing the boxes as another option for our kids in our communities, because we recognize that. So I don't think the state's policy would come down and give a specific method. They're never that specific in their policies. Likely they're going to say you need to implement a bell-to-bell cell phone plan that prohibits students from accessing their cell phones during the school day. And how you do that is going to be up to you. And the other reason they would do that is then they're not mandating a cost to the school districts either. There's a workaround for the unfunded mandate aspect. So I think the policy that has been proposed here gives us flexibility for both the school district, for administration, for teachers, for families, and for students, and in a way that allows them to have a little bit of a say in how that bell-to-bell ban is going to impact them. So I just try to address some of that. And I did have a team went out to Watertown. Watertown piloted this doorman app for this school year. A team went out, including Mr. Augusta, our new principal, went with them. They had lots of questions and lots of opportunities to learn from them. It seems to be a really good product and is going to become pretty limited pretty quickly because of the demand from school districts across the state of Massachusetts. So we're hoping to hop on board of that before they don't have the option to provide it to us. So that's kind of where we are. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them as well.
I appreciate that. I just want, as a school committee, us to be very careful with recurring costs that we're going to take in. I think we have to be more vigilant now than ever before. Seems how town meeting went down. I think that we need to be very conservative as a group to show the town that we are being very conservative with the money that towns are giving us and that taxpayers are giving us. And if there is a way to not incur a $32,000 bill if we don't get the grant, although it seems like we probably will, to not incur a recurring $6,000 bill every year for something, so if there's other ways to do it, I just want to see. And if I could, Mr. Ford, if you were able to send that link to me that shows the House and the Senate's bill, I would really appreciate that.
Can you please send that to all of us, the entire school committee?
I'll have it to the next 5 minutes.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Jillian, any additional updates from the budget subcommittee other than what has already been shared?
No. When we were talking about the FY27 budget, we went over everything we went over in the budgeting subcommittee.
Thank you. And then facility subcommittee, school building property naming, we've already had that update as well, correct, Jen? All right.
Yes.
And the meeting minutes from the last Pilgrim Area Collaborative were not included in the packet, so those will be included in your August meeting agenda for you to be able to see what's going on with the Pilgrim Area Collaborative. Warrants.
Yep, in the packet was warrants to be included to be entered into the record.
All right, thank you so much for that. And appreciate you taking that on up until the very last minute possible.
Yep, I signed one last one today. I shared a document with you earlier, so you can take them over while I'm temporarily out.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I did get that. Last agenda item is the acceptance of minutes from May 26th. Are there any amendments to those meeting minutes? I know I had one on page 3. School committee updates are in there twice. The first one, item number 5, I believe is the superintendent update. I didn't have any others from that. Anybody else?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as amended for May 26, 2026.
Perfect. So that was Jillian. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. That was Jen Sears. Motion has been moved and seconded. Roll call vote. Jillian?
Aye.
Ms. Powers?
Abstain.
Charlene?
Aye.
Jen?
Aye.
Apologies, everyone, for the feedback. I also vote aye. Motion carries 4-0-1. Did I get that right, Joe? Excellent. The next regular meeting of the school committee is August 18th, 2026 at 6 p.m. at the school district office. Before we adjourn, I would like to congratulate once again Superintendent Baeta on his retirement from Stoughton Public Schools.
Good
We are
luck in
so
the future,
grateful
Joey.
for the
Good job.
3 years that we were able to spend with you and wish you the best in your retirement. Fully expect you to see you making changes to our charter. We know where you live. We will hold you accountable to that. And fully expect to see you perhaps making public comment and popping in committee meetings. So congratulations. And we also want to wish Jillian DeStefano a successful birth tomorrow. Congratulate you on becoming a mother again. It was so much fun the first time. Decided to do it again. And it has been said you're not truly a parent until you have 2 kids because you always know who did it. So now the mystery will make life even more interesting. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right, that was Charlene. Do we have a second?
Second.
That was Jillian DeStefano. Motion, roll call vote. Jillian.
Aye.
Ms. Powers.
Aye, good luck in Laconia, Joe.
Charlene.
Aye.
Jen.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. Motion carries 5-0. We are adjourned at 8:38 p.m. Have a great summer, everyone.